Right now, in a hospital room somewhere, a team of trained doctors is ready for the exact moment a baby decides to arrive. Kale's tribe had no hospital, no doctors, and no way to call for help. When a birth went wrong, there was only the people standing beside you. Kale's mate, Sarah, was due to give birth any day, and the whole camp had quietly begun preparing for it. The older women had already gathered soft moss, clean water, and warm hides, laying them aside without saying why out loud. Just the night before, Kale had felt his daughter kick beneath his palm for the very first time, and Sarah had laughed at his startled face. Then, late one night, far from camp, Sarah felt the first deep pain low in her belly. She had been gathering firewood alone when it started, farther from help than anyone wanted her to be. Human childbirth is uniquely difficult among primates. Our narrow, upright pelvis and our babies' unusually large heads make labor slow and dangerous. Scientists call it the obstetrical dilemma, a trade-off our ancestors paid for every single time a child was born into the world. It's also why human babies are born so early and so helpless compared to other animals, their brains still needing years more to finish growing outside the womb. Sarah called out into the dark, and Kale heard her voice carry across the quiet, sleeping camp. He ran faster than he ever had in his life, pulling two of the camp's most experienced women along with him. Other members of the camp woke to the commotion, gathering nearby with worried faces, unsure what to do, but unwilling to leave. A small child tugged at his father's arm, quietly asking why everyone looked so afraid in the middle of the night. By the time they reached her, Sarah was already on her hands and knees, breathing hard through the pain. One elder knelt behind her immediately, calm and certain, as if she had done this many times before that night. She had. Births like this were almost never handled by one person alone, but always by several people working together. Anthropologists believe this need for help during birth was one of the earliest forces that pushed early humans to cooperate at all. The elder guided Sarah into a low squatting position, using gravity and her own strength together to help the labor along. Another woman braced Sarah's back firmly, giving her something solid to push against in the cold dark. Kale could only wait close by, useless in the exact way every anxious partner has felt since the beginning of time. Someone built up the fire quickly, throwing long, restless shadows across the circle of worried faces surrounding Sarah. The contractions came harder and closer together, and Sarah's breathing turned into short, ragged, desperate gasps. Then, without warning, labor stalled completely. Minutes passed, then more minutes, and nothing at all changed. The elder pressed her hands gently against Sarah's belly, feeling carefully for the shape of the child curled inside. The baby was turned the wrong way, feet down instead of head first, a breech position that could kill them both. Even today, with modern hospitals and equipment, a breech birth without medical help remains one of the most dangerous events in human reproduction. The elder's face didn't show fear, only sharp focus, the kind that comes only from having faced this exact danger before. She had learned the same technique decades earlier, guided through her own trembling hands by a woman even older than she was now. She reached in carefully, using slow, practiced movements passed down to her from a woman who had once taught her everything. Sarah screamed through the worst of it, gripping tightly onto the arms of the women holding her steady. Kale held a torch closer, the only light either of them had in the freezing, silent dark. Somewhere in the dark, an owl called once, and for a terrible moment, no one in the circle dared to move at all. Slowly, carefully, the elder guided the child's position, turning what could have been a tragedy into a real chance. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours to everyone waiting. No one in that small circle spoke above a whisper. Then, finally, the baby's head crowned, and every single woman there leaned in at once, breath held tight. With one final, exhausted push, Sarah brought her daughter into the world beneath the wide-open night sky. The baby didn't cry right away, and for one long, unbearable second, absolutely no one in the circle breathed. Then a thin, furious wail broke the silence, and the whole circle exhaled together at exactly the same moment. The elder wrapped the newborn gently in warm hide and placed her straight onto Sarah's exhausted chest. Kale dropped to his knees beside them both, hands shaking, completely unable to find any words at all. Skin-to-skin contact right after birth helps regulate a newborn's heartbeat and body temperature, something ancient mothers likely discovered through instinct alone, long before anyone understood why. By sunrise, almost the entire camp had gathered quietly at the edge of the clearing, waiting simply to see that both mother and child were alive. That same morning, Sarah named her daughter after the very first sound she'd made, a small, fierce cry that refused to be ignored. The rest of the camp learned of the birth by morning, and for one full day, Even hunting was quietly forgotten. The elder who had guided the birth was thanked the only way someone who saves 2 lives truly can be. From then on, she trained other women in exactly what she had done for Sarah that long, dark night. She began holding quiet lessons by firelight, letting younger women practice the same holds and positions on woven dolls made of grass. She taught them how to read a mother's breathing, how to feel for a child's position, and how to stay calm when everything else screamed panic. This knowledge became one of the tribe's most carefully guarded skills, taught only hand to hand, woman to woman, generation after generation. Every single camp needed at least one person who knew it, because sooner or later, every camp eventually needed it. Seasons passed, and Sarah's daughter grew strong, learning to walk on the very same ground she had been born beneath. Years later, when another young mother went into labor far too early, that same elder was already on her way to help. This time, it was Sarah herself, older now, kneeling beside the frightened mother, remembering every single thing she had once needed. The role passed quietly from woman to woman, exactly the same as it had for countless generations before either of them ever existed. Across the entire world, entirely separate cultures, independently developed the exact same idea, a trained, trusted companion present at every single birth. Researchers studying hunter-gatherer societies today, from the Congo rainforest to the Kalahari Desert, have found the same pattern everywhere: birth attendants, never a birth faced completely alone. Modern research even has a name for it now: the doula effect. Shorter labors and fewer complications whenever someone experienced stays close by your side. Studies on modern births have found a supportive companion can shorten labor by hours and lower the risk of complications, a benefit our ancestors had already discovered without ever needing a study to prove it. None of it was modern medicine. It was simply memory, technique, and quiet courage, passed carefully from hand to hand. So the next time a baby is born, inside a bright hospital room, full of monitors and trained staff, remember exactly what came before it. It came from a woman kneeling in the dark by torchlight, turning a child by hand, refusing to let 2 lives become 1 loss. It came from Kale, gripping a torch with shaking hands, terrified out of his mind, and staying anyway, beside them both. Kale never forgot the sound of that first cry, and for the rest of his life, he treated every birth in the camp as sacred as that night. Years later, Sarah's own daughter had children of her own, and that same tradition of women knelt quietly beside her too. By the time Sarah's granddaughter was born, 3 generations of women from that same lineage knelt together in the very same circle. And aged Sarah watched her grandchild take its very first breath inside the same circle of women that had once saved her own life. The fire, the torch, the steady hands, none of it had ever really changed, only the faces holding them. Nothing about that night had ever been guaranteed. 2 lives could just as easily have ended instead of 2 lives beginning. But someone stayed. Someone already knew exactly what to do. And somehow, against everything, that was enough. They never had hospitals. They just never once let a mother face it completely alone. Subscribe, and you'll never have to wait alone to find out what happens next.